Hi, it's Richard Dunn from Evoca. In this little video we're going to bring our fire particle or our torch particle into the scene that's provided, and we're going to just test it out, see how it looks, and check it to see if there's anything missing. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go into the content browser. There's our particle as we left it off. And we're just going to grab our particle torch. As we can see here, it's got an asterisk because it needs saving. So let's just save it. And let's just drag it into the scene. I'm just going to minimize these windows. So what we've done is we're now just bringing this in and just positioning it on one of our torches as a little test. There we go. If you want to make sure that you've got it right, you can always go into top view, and as you can see, we're not quite there. That's where we want to be, right there. Okay, so that looks pretty good. We've got our smoke, and we've got our fire, and we've got our sparks. But there's something missing, and that is that the background behind the fire should have a shimmer. It should be distorting from the heat of the fire. Now, outwardly that sounds like a really complicated thing to do, but it's actually not. It's really, really simple. And to save memory on the particle, we can reuse one of the particles that's already there, and that's the smoke. So we can basically say, where there's smoke, let's distort the image underneath the fire. So the easiest way to do this is to come back into your content browser. And what we're going to do is we're going to reuse the smoke material. So let's click it, create a copy, and let's call this heat matte, and OK it. Then we need to save that again, and we're just going to make some very simple changes to it. This is what we've got right now, but we actually want to not render any images at all. So we just have to rewire this to distort the image but not render. So all we have to do is simply take this output and take that down into distortion, and then we can alt click on there. This one now is obsolete. This node here is not doing anything. As you can see, it's only using one sample and 3 instructions. Very, very cheap effect. So if we compile that and we look, you may be able to see it's actually distorting the UVs, the grid. So we'll minimize that. And we'll jump back into our particle, and what we're going to do is we're going to reuse this. So with our smoke, right click on it, emitter, duplicate emitter. So now we have another smoke, an identical one. Let's just rename this to heat, and let's just add under required that material that we just created, heat matte. Let's just plug that in there. Now if we have a look at that in our scene, you can see we are now getting heat distortion, and it's following the particle wherever it goes. So all you need to do now is, if you've got your own scene, place a few fires around. If you don't, you can put them on top of these ones. And last of all, let's just look at that overdraw that we were looking at right at the start of this course. If we get our camera down so we can look at something, look against something that's fairly efficient like the sky, and we turn on shader complexity, we can see that our fire is red and it's getting pink in places, but it's not white. And that's because we've done this in a fairly efficient way. And you'll notice the sparks are not even registering because we have no overdraw on those at all. As you can see, once we bring the fire down in front of the terrain, it starts to become white. That's because the terrain material is quite complex. If we come down on the bridge, which is green, how it should be, we see that it goes back to red, which is an acceptable level for a particle. But as soon as we make copies of this by alt dragging and put that behind it, we start getting really, really expensive overdraw. So this is where you have to be careful. So we'll just delete that last emitter and go back into lit mode. So be mindful of how you use these particles. They're great, they're extremely powerful, and they add a lot of ambience and realism, but you have to use them very, very carefully. So that pretty much sums it up. So that completes the fire torch part of this set. We've completed the fire, the embers, the smoke, and the heat distortion, and we've created a complete particle system. The last thing I quickly want to show you is how to convert this into what's called a prefab, so that we can actually move the torch and the fire as one object, just to make it easier to level build with this item. So I'm just going to turn off real-time preview, so that unless we're moving in the viewport, the fire won't actually move. What we can do is select the fire particle. You can see down here it says level emitter, so we know we've selected it, and control select the torch. So we've now got the emitter and the torch, two actors selected. If we right click and we go create prefab, we can now put this in our package. We'll put it in that one. We'll call it a prefab because it is a specific type. And we'll call this torch. Would you like to replace this with an instance? Yes. And now you can see we have a little P. It's in the ground at the moment, but if we lift this up, now we just select that. Everything comes with it. And this is how you can build far more complicated things in your scene. You can add a light to this, which we'll do soon. You can add a collection of emitters. It really doesn't matter, but this is how you would create a prefab of an object. So in the next video, we'll quickly add a light with what's called a light function to this prefab, which will enable a flicker to the light in a dark room. And then we'll go on from there. Thank you.